having these interns share the story in an authentic way allows us to reach maximum engagement on all of our content. And I think that's really, really important. I also think we're able to talk in the tone of a 17 or 18-year-old because our interns are constantly reviewing all of our email copy, all of our captions, all of our ads to make sure it's in the way that they would want to hear it.
Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Tiers from Tutor Collegiate Strategies, and you're about to check out the latest episode of the Mission of Mission podcast, a show that's designed to help higher ed become better recruiters, communicators, marketers, and managers. Each week I'll introduce you to an industry leader or difference maker who will share helpful advice, tips, and strategies that will help you grow professionally and personally. Mission of Mission is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. I'm excited to share my latest candid conversation, so let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Tiers, and welcome to episode 30 of the Mission Admissions podcast. I'm super fired up to kick off season 3 and want to start by saying thank you and I appreciate you to everyone who's listening. It's been a lot of fun to get emails and DMs from listeners, and at the NACAC National Conference this fall, I had a lot of people stop by the booth and just share with me different ideas and strategies that they've taken from one of my guests and put them into action, which is the goal every time I have a guest on. Today, I am joined by Andy Murphy, and Andy is the Associate Director of Marketing at Siena College. And Andy actually has a really, I think, unique background, which I think will be a fun conversation today. In addition to his day job at Siena, Andy is also an adjunct professor who teaches consumer behavior class. He's also the executive vice president for programming at the AMA, the American Marketing Association, New York Capital Region chapter. And rumor has it, Andy, you were a tour guide in college and also a vice president of the Student Senate. Do I have that right?
That's accurate. I was a tour guide here and climbed the ranks on Student Senate from class president to VP of the student body to president of the student body.
Where I would love to start is here, Andy. So what has teaching classes to college students taught you about communicating with Gen Z?
So I've learned that Gen Z really likes to express their thoughts in a group atmosphere. When I'm asking students topics about consumer behavior and I ask them if anybody wants to share an idea, it's a silent classroom. But when I break them into groups or small teams, it's like they know the material for their entire life. And so when you can get them in a comfortable environment, they're way more easy to share their thoughts in a comfortable way.
Do you feel like the idea of fear preventing people from speaking out when it's a large group like that is what holds people back? Or do you think it's something else, just the way they've gone through high school and what they're used to doing in a lot of their classes?
I think fear is a top issue in class. And I come from a practical background, so I've done marketing my whole life, and I don't have that PhD kind of classroom experience. And so I think they fear that they're going to say the wrong answer. And we try to make it here at Siena, like whatever idea you have is a great idea, and we want you to share it. But they have this stigma, whether it's from high school or other classes, where they say the wrong idea and they're going to get like points taken off. And so they would rather just do it in a group and feel safer that way.
And you all at Siena, we've had a number of chances to partner over the years together. I've been on your campus many times, and you know, I know your leadership team, they're very well. You all do an amazing job, I think, of really being student-centered in all the different strategies you do. And one of the things I'm most excited for listeners to hear about today is this amazing team of student marketing interns that you all have created and developed. So you are up to 18, is that right? Is that where we're at now?
Yeah, it's a very busy fall semester. I mean, we started this program 7 years ago, and we had one intern on our team. And over the years, we've really grown it to be this mass audience of student content creators, student marketers who are energized and ready to help us reach our enrollment goals.
Walk me through, because a couple of things, if I have this right, you were one of those marketing interns when you were a student at Siena, correct?
Correct.
But you weren't intern number one.
I was intern number one like 10 years ago. And so I interned with Allison and our team all 4 years at Siena. And then when I got hired right out of college at Siena, the first thing that Allison had me do was to go find an intern. And so she goes, I think this is a really great professional development opportunity for you, like overseeing an intern. And from there, I've kind of really built it up through one semester, and then I just kept growing and growing. Everything that we've done in the program has been an original idea of either myself or from my past experiences. And I was also an intern at a higher ed agency down in Virginia. And so I kind of modeled what I wanted my students to learn the way I was having my own experiences as an intern. And so I've just run with it. And there's been a lot of successes. There's been some failures. There's been great opportunity for learning and growth. And it's been really beneficial for Siena to have these interns every semester.
So what has been I mean, if you had to narrow it down, I'm sure there's a bunch of things, but if you had to narrow it down to one or even two, what have the biggest benefits been in terms of having those students? And we'll get into kind of some of the things they do here in a moment, but having this program and growing it like you have, what are the one or two biggest benefits you've ultimately seen?
I think now that we have to market to Gen Z, and Gen Z is so particular about the content that they see and resonate with, having these interns share the story in an authentic way allows us to reach maximum engagement on all of our content. And I think that's really, really important. I also think we're able to talk in the tone of a 17 or 18-year-old because our interns are constantly reviewing all of our email copy, all of our captions, all of our ads to make sure it's in the way that they would want to hear it, not, someone who's 10 years removed from college.
And so let's kind of go through a day in the life of an intern currently at Siena. Give the audience some ideas of things that typically you're having them do when they come in. How many times a week they're coming in? I mean, any details you can share, just kind of day in the life stuff.
We treat our interns like a full-time employee of our marketing staff. So they're coming in and we're taking a look at, so let's just say, for example, on a Monday morning, we look at what are our ads for the week. And they're able to go into the Adobe Creative Cloud and actually create ads for Siena themselves. I think that's a great learning experience for them. And then we take a look at our email comm flow and our text messages. What are we saying in the text messages? Is it working? Is it not working? How would you say it? Would you click on this ad if it said this instead? And so they do a lot of auditing for us, but a lot of content creation as well.
What did you do when you started as an intern that you've really taken and brought to them that you found work well 10 years ago that is still working? Is there anything, or have you just really had to shift as generations have shifted?
The fact that they're working on actual projects, I think, is critical. And so they can go out into a job interview and say, hey, I did X project, I ran X campaign analytics. I think that's really important for them. It's also critical for our internship program to learn how to create content. Siena has a phenomenal curriculum and they teach you strategy and defining SMART goals. But in the internship program, they're really in the weeds of producing content, making sure our 15-second videos are short and concise, our ads are on brand, and the animations are all working. So I think being able to learn some of those technical creative skills that I learned a little bit as an intern, but I've really grown that part of this program.
Let's talk a little bit about the hiring process, because as you said, you started with one and you're over 15 now, almost hitting 20. Is there a plan in terms of how big this thing is going to be able to become in your brain and actually have it be, what you want it to be? And just, let's talk about how you're choosing how you hire these students. Are they just submitting resumes? Are you going to certain professors and asking for feedback? I mean, walk us through just how you're finding these student interns.
It's a bit of a mix. I would say the first thing is obviously we have a career internship portal that students can reach out to. But I think the best way that we find interns is the relationships that we build. So our content team, myself, Emily and Dave on our staff, we're always out during class change. We're in the dining hall. We're at all the events. So we're very visible on campus in terms of what we're doing. So our work is heavily seen. And I think when we build really strong relationships, people then want to come work for you and they want to be a part of that atmosphere. And so I'm constantly meeting students and saying, hey, what's your major? Oh, do you hear about our internship program? We offer this program. It's really great. You get real world experience. And then, other than the fact that I'm an adjunct professor, I go into classes. I judge our capstone marketing classes. So I'm meeting professors and I'm hearing, what are the students' needs? Do you have any students that are exceptional that would love an internship with our office? So it's kind of those three different tactics that we use to find students.
And the students that are most successful, if you had to give me 2 or 3 qualities that most of them have, what are they?
They have to be a strong collaborator. They have to have the ability to be both analytical and creative. And I think that blend of a student sometimes is difficult to find. I would say 95% of the students that come through our program, they're very, very shy and timid about the data side of marketing. And so we try to introduce that type of work in a very, fun and experiential way, because I think if you can be strong in data, you can be an excellent marketer.
Hey guys, it's Zach here, founder of Enrollify, with some huge news. So I am ecstatic to announce that Element 451, the AI-powered all-in-one CRM platform for higher education, has acquired Enrollify. Back in 2019, I approached Tony Frega, the CEO of DD Agency, with an idea. Tony's a good friend of mine, and so I said, dude, let's build a next-generation media hub for higher ed marketers and admissions professionals. As a lover of media, I was just so impressed by how the attention landscape was changing and how brands like The Skim and The Hustle and Morning Brew began to eat up market share from more traditional publications. And I thought there was an opportunity to build something similar, obviously a lot smaller, but similar in the niche but oh so important arena of higher education marketing. Tony and the leadership at DD were gracious enough to allow me the time and the space to ideate on this half-baked idea and then launch Enrollify's first ever content asset, which was, you guessed it, the Enrollify Podcast. Since then, Enrollify has grown into one of the most trusted resources for candid higher education marketing content in the industry, and we've welcomed industry giants like Terry Flannery, Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Eddie Francis, Dave Kibbles, and Jeremy Tiers, just to name a few, into our network of creators. As we started thinking about the next chapter of Enrollify's life, it became clear that it was time for Enrollify to scale. I'm pretty good at building things, but scaling things is a skill I'm still working on. When thinking about who could take Enrollify to the next level, I felt as if Artis, Mallory, and the leadership at Element 451 were uniquely qualified to inherit the brand. Element has actually been a part of Enrollify's story since the very beginning. They were our second podcast sponsor ever. They have invested in almost every experiment that we've ever run. They ship product faster than any other ed tech company I've ever met. And perhaps most importantly, Artis and the leadership team invest seriously in thought leadership and education. Building Enrollify has been the most rewarding experience of my professional career to date, and I couldn't be happier to collaborate with the Element team as we seek to take Enrollify to the next level. And don't worry, I'm not going anywhere just yet. You are not through with my lovely voice just yet. But if you found any value in Enrollify over your years of tuning into our content or watching our videos, it would mean a lot if you could share a kind word or two about how Enrollify has helped inspire you or helped teach you something new about marketing on social media. It would really mean a lot to the whole Enrollify and Element team, but to me personally as well. So if you've gotten any value of any of the content that we've ever produced, share a quick story or a quick thought about us on social. That would be wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being here, guys, and get ready. We've got so much in store that I can't wait to share with you all soon. But for now, back to the podcast.
See, and I find that interesting, but at the same time, not surprising, Andy, because I think about the work that I do with admissions and enrollment teams. And, I landed this morning at midnight. I was on a campus yesterday in Alabama working with a team, and it came up yesterday and it's come up multiple times over the last few months as I've done other trainings. Admissions counselors, in some cases, even associate directors on the admissions side of the house, understanding how to utilize data to help them become a better territory manager continues to be something that it really needs a lot of work in a lot of admissions offices. And I just wonder your take on, especially with students, right? We've never had a generation that's been more, open to technology, utilizes it in so many different ways. You think it's just, again, back to the same thing we talked about before, which is like fear of I'm not used to this, I'm worried I'm going to make a mistake and screw it up and Andy's going to get mad at me? Or why do you think there are challenges there in terms of the data side of things?
My first question that I got asked in my job interview before I got hired here by Allison was, define to me cost per click and click-through rate performances in a paid marketing campaign. And so I asked that to my interns. I say, when you graduate from Siena, can you define this in an interview? And the majority of them say no. So I said, okay, we're going to do work where you can feel comfortable in explaining those metrics. And so I think that is a big component. I just don't think the curriculum is caught up yet in terms of what the industry is demanding as marketers.
Yeah, it makes sense because we're not going backwards with data, right? Like that's what I continue to tell people. You have to become comfortable with data, especially if you're on the marketing side, but even if you're on the admission side. And again, you all do an amazing job at Siena of having admissions and enrollment marketing work side by side and really being that, collaboration that you've been talking about. And anybody listening who's looking for opportunities to grow either as a marketer, enrollment marketer, or admissions, or even admissions leader, I mean, to Andy's point, become comfortable with data. Because if you're not comfortable with data, it's going to be a lot harder to really develop strategies that are going to be successful.
On the data side as well, I think a lot of the students, especially Gen Z, they just want to go viral on these platforms. They just want to make content. They don't understand that good content is backed by good data. And I think there's a disconnect in, I'm just going to use, I'll use CapCut, I'll make a trendy video, I'll use the sound. Okay, well, what's the data strategy behind it? How are you going to get clicks and shares and comments? And how are you going to measure that performance of your content?
So how have you been able to get some of these interns then, Andy? Like anything that you found works well from a teaching standpoint in terms of getting them to understand the value of data and how to make it actionable as part of a strategy?
Yeah, so we do a couple of things. Our interns also basically partner with different campus departments on campus. So we have 3 interns that oversee the Instagram account for the Career and Internship Center. And so they're posting organic content, whether it's reels or pictures. And when we do a debrief, 24 hours after they post it. What were the metrics? How did it perform? And I let them do an A/B test. And so we'll do one video one week, we'll do a different video another week at a different time posted. And then they can go in and see what's the reach, what's the impressions on the organic side. The same thing we do on paid marketing. I'll give them an advertisement to make. We'll put it up against the 3 other assets that we run in the campaign, and then they can see the cost per click and the click rate themselves and see how their content is working.
What's the hardest part of managing, 15 to 20 college students?
They all have different personalities, and so you have to really see what motivates each individual and to get the best work out of them. I think it's also a balance of, I also have a day job, right? And I have goals to hit and I have performance metrics to hit. And so managing that workload of, I want our interns to have a really great experience, but I got 60, 70 unread emails in my inbox I got to get to, and being able to spend actual time one-on-one with the interns while doing my job can sometimes be a bit of a struggle when you have that quantity of interns on the team.
Have you had any thoughts, if you're willing to share, around, you see this a lot of times, for example, with student ambassadors or tour guides, right, where you develop essentially a senior group who's been doing it for more than 1 year, who then helps you manage the younger group when they come in. Has that thought process gone through your brain at all?
We're starting to build that into the program. Right now, a lot of the interns come to us either as second semester juniors or in their senior year. For some reason, that's when it clicks like, I need an internship before I graduate. So the mindset's there. We were really fortunate last year. It was the first time we had an intern with us for 2 straight years. She did 4 different style of internships. And she was actually really able to help the new interns kind of adapt to the office atmosphere. But because she was with us for 2 years, she was presenting to our board of trustees. She was creating marketing plans. And, she got a really great job when she graduated because of the way her resume was built through the internship program. And I think it just helps the onboarding process. When we reflect back on some of the challenges, when you bring in 15 interns, you got to onboard them onto the Siena brand, and you got to teach 15 interns how to work Adobe. That takes a lot of time if you don't have any experience in it. And so when you can bring them back for another semester, they kind of just go right back into the swing of things, and it's a lot more efficient on the project management side.
Let's change gears because you mentioned the word brand. And so fill in the blank for me. Your brand is blank. Like you said, the Siena brand, right? So the Siena brand, how do you define that? Is what?
I think it's exciting, authentic, and full of spirit. And that's what we want to market to our students. We harp with our interns in terms of creating FOMO in our content. We want our prospective students to see, hey, this is a place that I cannot miss out on because it looks like students are having such a great time. And that's what we try to portray in all of our messaging.
And where did that brand strategy come from? And is it something that, again, has been pretty consistent the entire time you've been on the marketing team at Siena, or has that changed in, the time that you've been there?
I think it's evolved over time. Last year, we heavily worked on the student-centered marketing plan for Siena, where it wasn't necessarily the goals of the Siena marketing team that we were focused on, but the goals of the prospective students. And so we really flipped the way we did all of our marketing to be 100% student-centered. And that's where the interns play a crucial role when we're producing content that we're putting out.
And so that gets me thinking, I got to believe over the years you've had what I would call, light bulb or aha moments. And by you, I mean, a student intern will say something or they'll be reviewing something and they'll come back and you just go, either A, how did I not think of that myself? Or B, oh, wow, I hadn't even thought to look at it that way, but that totally makes sense. Anything really top of mind that has surprised you over the years in terms of the feedback you've gotten from students as they've worked on different projects?
Our audience really resonates with someone on camera that looks and talks just like them. And so we see a lot of different schools. They bring in the video production team, and there's all these exterior lights and different mics and different videos. We're pretty simple when we do our marketing and our messaging. It's a person on camera. It's 15 seconds. It's a student that talks and looks like them. And those are the ones that get the most clicks and conversions. It's when it comes across as authentic. And the students have really pushed us to think and write scripts that sound just like a 17-year-old would talk.
Any thoughts on, because I get asked this a lot, and you made me think about it there in your reply. Any thoughts on this idea of, all right, well, you're in a professional role there at Siena. Students are telling you need to be even more, relational in your tone, more authentic in your message, your video, whatever it might be. Any thoughts, or does there ever have a discussion amongst the leadership group that works at Siena on the marketing side that, gosh, we don't want to go too far this one way because we feel like it will, quote unquote, be unprofessional?
I think our leadership team is very confident in the way that our basically the boots on the ground folks talk to our students. And so we have two coworkers who are exceptional at our text messaging, and they're replying in the exact same phrases and shorthand as a 17-year-old. We're not saying, best friend. We're saying bestie. We're not saying talk to you later. We're literally writing TTYO. And people are becoming more open to us in their replies, and it makes the relationship building a lot easier when you're talking on their level. And I don't think enough colleges are doing that yet.
Totally agree. And I wonder, was that an easy sell or a hard sell to senior leadership?
It was a harder sell to our senior leadership. So Ned's great at letting us try things out, but when you go to the cabinet level or the trustee level, they have a different viewpoint on how things should be run. And so we just bring the data and we say, hey, these are the text messages that we're sending out. This is the number of students that have enrolled because they've built relationships with X person, and it's working. And so they let us continue that because we provide them kind of how it's working.
And Ned, to be clear, is Ned Jones, who is your VP for enrollment management and overall of marketing, financial aid, and admissions at Siena.
Correct. Yep.
What are you thinking or focused on here for the end of 2023, or just as you're thinking about maybe the first quarter of 2024 on the digital ad side or anything else you're working on? Like, what's on your to-do list or project list that you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah. So right now we're heavily focused on driving applicants who apply after the November 15th deadline. We saw last year that that applicant pool wasn't really at the yield rate that we needed. And so we're heavily focused on right now testing out some new messaging that's going to drive students to apply after November 15th because they've learned about the $57,000 guarantee. They've already know that we're number one in New York for job placement. So why haven't they raised their hand yet? And so we're really trying to dig deep, and that's just where we're bringing the interns in. And they're really helping us trying to figure out what language is going to get them to apply. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging, but it's been a lot of fun so far.
And again, if you're comfortable sharing any revelations that the interns have had as to like, well, here's why I think these students haven't taken the next step and started their application.
So our students are telling us that if it's a parent reaching out to them, they're more likely to take an action. And so we give them, 4 to 5 different advertising examples. And they said, if that was a postcard that gets sent home and my dad put it in front of me, I'm more likely to do it because my dad said so. And so we're trying to create this type of messaging that's tailored to the parents, but it's the student taking the action.
I said yesterday in the training workshop that I mentioned I led, and Andy, this is, something I feel like one of the hills I will die on, as I continue to be a speaker. And for me, I'm going to get to go through this. As many listeners know, I have a 14-year-old daughter, so I will be one of those parents going through the college search here in a couple of years. Colleges are not doing a good enough job of communicating early enough in this process with parents of prospective students. It has to be. I mean, if you want to increase your yield, there are a lot of things you can do. You can be more data-driven, you can segment more, you can personalize more, all of which are important things. But I will tell you, the number 1A or 1B thing you need to do, most of you listening today, is just get a hold of some of these parents, especially of your admitted student population, but even of those higher level inquiries who have taken the next step, like visiting campus or are engaging with different communications and messaging and things that you're doing. I just see so many schools, Andy, saying, well, we'll start talking to mom and or dad or whatever the family dynamic is after we send out financial aid. And at that point, it just makes your job so much harder. And to your point, you're missing out on getting some applications from students because their parents aren't encouraging them or saying, hey, like, Siena seems like a really good option for you. I've been reading some of their stuff. Like, have you taken a look at this? Any thoughts on that, Andy?
Totally agree. Every time we start a brainstorm, we do 2 things. We say, what does the student need and how are they feeling? And then we do, what does the parent need and how is the parent feeling? And so we are very focused on both audiences. And we think that the parent is more involved in the college process than ever before. And you really have to have a certain, empathetic tone when you're talking with them. We're on that journey with them. And I think when you can build that into your communications plan, they're more willing to be vulnerable with you. And when they can be vulnerable, that's when you know that you've made a really strong connection with families.
I wonder though, and I've had this thought for a few years, Andy, and would just love to get your quick take as you hear me, say it. I wonder about colleges having almost like a parent advisory committee who is doing some of the same things, but from a, here's what you should be sending to parents, or here's how you should talk about financial aid to parents. Any thoughts on, seeing value in something like that, or just anything else you'd want to share about that?
Yeah, I think there's tremendous value in having that. We're lucky at Siena where we have a Siena parent Facebook group that's actually not run by the college, where fortunately for us, the parents are very helpful in that group. And so when they're talking about, X challenge on campus or whatever it may be, the parents are talking as if they're best friends in that group. What's also very interesting to see is when we put out ads with students in it, their parents are resharing it to their Facebook page almost as an influencer themselves. So we just did an apply ad last week, and that mom said to her entire Facebook group, make sure you all get your son or daughter to apply to Siena by November 15th. It's a great school. And so it's a little bit strategic as well. So we're picking students that may have, parents that are going to be influencers for us. And I think that helps spread our brand awareness.
But to be clear, while you might be messaging, those parents, there's no direct messaging from a standpoint of, hey, we sent this parent or this parent's part of a group and, we've told them we want you to go on there and push Siena or any of that. That's all happening organically as you all are communicating with different parents, not on the Facebook page, but through other resources and other ways of messaging, correct?
It's all organic. It never comes from a request on us. The parents just do it themselves. And I think it's because we've built such a relationship with them in the recruitment process where they're more open to now sharing how great Siena is because we've built such a strong connection.
What do you think the hardest thing is that most marketers, when they start, struggle with? I mean, you see some of this, I'm sure, in your work with AMA. And so I'm just wondering, as you're seeing younger marketers come into the space over the last couple of years on college campuses, anything that sticks out that you feel like, boy, like it may not have been a struggle for you when you started or a lot of the people or maybe it was, but boy, this is something that seems to be and a challenge for a lot of younger enrollment marketers or newer enrollment marketers?
The number one issue I see is creative burnout. And I think it starts even at the beginning of the process. I have a lot of interns or new hires who just go, I have no idea where to start. And I think they're afraid of that. Going back to our beginning talk about data, I think it's the same concept when we start to brainstorm. They feel like if they don't know where to start, then they're not educated enough, or they feel guilty that they don't know how to start a project. And so when interns come to me and say that, I said, you're not alone. There's times when I have no idea where to start a project. And I just start to brainstorm ideas on a piece of paper, and 30% are great, 70% are bad. But I see more and more students just have no idea where to begin on a project.
And do you think some of that could be rectified by more direction from leadership, or do you think it's something where this generation just has to be comfortable taking more initiative, testing out things, and understanding they're not all going to work, you're going to fail, but that's okay. Keep testing and keep trying.
Yeah, I think it's more to the second part. I would even say it's sometimes a lack of confidence and definitely a lack of initiative. Thing that blew my mind the most as an adjunct professor was, so I have 30 students in my class. I gave them the opportunity to submit their project ahead of time for early feedback. Only 3 of them submitted it for early feedback. And I was like, this is only going to help your grade. And I only had 3 students submit it. I just think it's a lack of willingness to do the work.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's the fact that this group of students went through, remote learning for so long, where the effort in a remote learning experience probably wasn't at the level they would get in an in-person classroom. So they're still in that mode where, I can just do this because this worked during this part of my academic experience, where we've really got to try to change that motto and motivation.
Andy, the last thing we do every time I do a podcast episode is what I call fun rapid fire. So I'm just going to give you a handful of things, and I just want some quick answers from you on each of them, okay?
Perfect. Let's do it.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I'd love to fly.
What new show have you started watching? I don't know if you're a Netflix person or cable or whatever it is over the past few months. Any new shows that you really like?
Mayor of Kingstown. It's on Paramount Plus.
Favorite craft beer is?
Ooh, I'll go with Sloop Juice. It's a hazy, juicy IPA.
And is that a New York beer?
It is.
And I know you're an avid photographer. We've talked about that before. Best, or I'll even go funnest place that you've ever actually gone and taken pictures?
On a professional side, I did a castle on Long Island. On a travel side, I was able to go to Edinburgh, Scotland, and take some really cool photos over there.
Last one. Song you listen to when you want to get hyped up. What is it?
Oh, Rocky Road to Dublin by the High Kings. I'm an Irishman, true and true, and it's a great hype song.
Love it. I greatly appreciate you being so open, Andy, and willing to share. If people want to connect with you after they listen to this, what's the best way or easiest way to do that?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Andy Murphy on LinkedIn, and you can definitely connect with me, message me, and I love building my network, and I'm happy to share any insight after this and continue the conversation.
Appreciate you being here today, Andy.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Hey, all, Zach here from Enrollify. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mission Admissions with Jeremy Tiers. If you like this episode, do us a huge favor and hit that follow and subscribe button below. Furthermore, if you've got just 2 minutes to spare, we would greatly appreciate you leaving a rating and a review of this show on Apple Podcasts. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, admissions, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks that are all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. But Enrollify is far more than just a podcast network. Enrollify is where higher ed comes to learn new marketing skills, discover new products and services, and find their next job. We're a growing learning community of 4,000 members, and we'd love to welcome you into the fold. You can access our free blog articles, newsletters, e-courses, and more, or purchase our master course on how to market a university with Terry Flannery at enrollify.org. We look forward to meeting you soon and welcoming you into the community. Again, you can subscribe for free at enrollify.org.